Maria had never felt more tired in her life. After months of long meetings, endless phone calls, and sleepless nights, she finally found a moment to breathe. The small bar at the edge of the city was quiet, with only a few people scattered around. She liked this place because it was simple and calm, a rare break from her busy world as the CEO of a growing tech company. She sat alone at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. The steam rose slowly, warming her cold fingers. Maria looked out the window, watching the rain fall softly on the empty street. The city lights shimmered through the drops, making everything look peaceful. For a moment, she allowed herself to forget about the stress, the deadlines, and the constant pressure to succeed. But peace was short-lived. From the other side of the room, Maria noticed two men watching her. Both were tall and strong, wearing simple clothes but carrying themselves with confidence. Their eyes were fixed on her, and she could tell they were trained fighters just by the way they stood straight-backed, calm, and ready. Maria's heart quickened. She was alone, and although she had handled difficult people before, something about these men felt different. They moved slowly toward her, but there was no smile or greeting, only a quiet intensity that filled the air. The first man pulled out a chair and sat opposite her without asking. His dark eyes studied her carefully. The second man leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed, watching her every move. Maria kept her expression calm, but inside, her mind raced. She knew the risks of being a woman in a powerful position. People often underestimated her, or worse, tried to challenge her just because she was different. But she wasn't going to back down now. Not when she had worked so hard to get where she was. The man across from her spoke softly, "You shouldn't be here alone." His voice was smooth but had a sharp edge. Maria's eyes met his, steady and unafraid. "I can take care of myself," she replied simply. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's not what I'm worried about." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Sometimes, people like you don't understand the dangers." Maria felt a flicker of anger but stayed quiet. She didn't want to cause trouble. She just wanted to finish her drink and leave. The second man stepped forward now, closing the small distance between them. He was calm but clearly powerful, the kind of person who could cause problems if he wanted. Maria's mind searched for an escape, but the bar was quiet and empty, and the exits were too far. She felt cornered, but her hands stayed steady on the table. "What do you want?" she asked. The first man's smile faded. "We want to talk. About your company. About the people you're working with. About the deals you're making." Maria's eyes narrowed. "I don't know what you mean." The second man shook his head slowly. "Don't play games. We know who you are. And we know what you're doing. You're stepping into places you don't belong." Maria's breath caught. She had expected challenges from business rivals, but this was different. These men were threatening her, trying to intimidate her. Yet, she refused to show fear. "I don't belong anywhere except where I work," she said firmly. "And I will not let anyone stop me." The two men exchanged a quick look, their black belts visible as they shifted their stances. Maria realized they were ready for a fight if she made one move. But she didn't want violence, she wanted to find a way out. At that moment, from across the bar, a quiet voice interrupted the tension. "Hey," said a man standing near the entrance. His voice was calm but carried weight. He walked slowly toward the table, his eyes on the two men and then on Maria. His face was weathered from years of hard work and life, but his posture was steady and strong. He wore a jacket rolled up to his elbow, showing a tattoo on his forearm. It was a faded design, an old military emblem that told stories of courage and sacrifice. The two men noticed the tattoo immediately. Their aggressive looks softened for a moment as they recognized the symbol. The room seemed to hold its breath. The man took a few more steps forward and stopped beside Maria's table. He looked at her and nodded slightly, then turned his gaze to the black belts. "Is everything okay here?" he asked quietly. Maria glanced at him, relief washing over her. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice was still shaky. The two men hesitated, unsure what to do now. The presence of the veteran had changed something in the room, something they hadn't expected. John, the man with the tattoo, didn't say more. He simply stood there, calm and steady, like a quiet storm. The tension in the air didn't disappear, but it shifted. The black belt stepped back a little, unsure. Maria looked at John and silently thanked him. She had no idea who he was, but somehow, his presence gave her hope. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. As the rain continued to fall outside, the small bar became the place where strength wasn't shown by fists or threats but by quiet courage and unexpected kindness. The bar's dim light flickered softly, casting gentle shadows across the wooden floor. Outside, the rain had slowed, but the night still carried a quiet chill. Maria sat in her corner, watching the man who had just stepped in. John, the veteran with the faded tattoo on his forearm, was calm and steady. His presence filled the space between her and the two black belt men who still lingered nearby. John's eyes didn't hold any anger or judgment. Instead, they carried something different, an understanding, a quiet strength built from years of experience. His gaze was steady but kind, like someone who had seen tough times but learned to carry them with grace. Maria studied him for a moment. He was not like the others she had met in her life. The black belts had come with force in their eyes, ready to intimidate. But John was different. He seemed to hold a calm power that didn't need to prove itself. "Thank you," Maria said softly, looking up at him. Her voice was still a little shaky. "I didn't expect anyone to step in." John nodded, his eyes softening. "Sometimes, it's not about fighting," he said quietly. "It's about being there when someone needs help." Maria felt warmth spread inside her chest. She had spent so long fighting her battles alone that this simple kindness surprised her. For a moment, she allowed herself to relax. John pulled out the chair next to her and sat down slowly. He kept his gaze on the two men who had started to back away, as if sensing that their power had been challenged. The black belts muttered something to each other, then moved toward the exit, their steps heavy but silent. As the men left, John turned his attention fully to Maria. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Maria took a deep breath. "I will be," she said. "But sometimes, it's hard. Being a woman in my position, people don't always respect that." John nodded in understanding. "I know what it's like to feel unseen or underestimated," he said. "When I left the service, it was hard to find my place. People had their ideas about who I was, what I could do." Maria looked at him curiously. "You're a veteran?" she asked. John smiled faintly. "Yes. I served for many years. It teaches you a lot about strength, but also about patience and respect." There was something about his voice that made Maria want to listen more. She felt like she could share a piece of herself without fear. "What about you?" John asked. "How did you become the CEO of your company?" Maria laughed softly, a sound that was both tired and proud. "It wasn't easy. I worked my way up, starting with small jobs, learning everything I could. I've faced a lot of challenges, people who doubted me, who tried to push me down. But I kept going. John nodded. That takes courage. Maria looked down at her hands. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm strong enough. But moments like tonight remind me I'm not alone. John placed a hand gently on hers, a silent gesture of support. Maria looked up, surprised but grateful. In that small bar, two strangers were finding a connection that neither expected. John glanced at his watch and realized the time had passed quickly. I don't want to keep you, he said softly. But if you ever need someone to talk to, or just a friendly face, I'm here. Maria smiled. Thank you, John. I appreciate that more than you know. The bar grew quieter as the night deepened. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving a fresh, cool scent in the air. Maria felt a new sense of calm settle over her. Before John left, he looked at her once more. You're stronger than you think, he said. Sometimes, we just need a little reminder. Maria nodded, feeling hope blossom inside her. She watched as John walked out the door, the faded tattoo on his arm catching the light one last time. As the door closed behind him, Maria sat back in her chair, her heart lighter than it had been in days. She realized that strength didn't always come from fighting alone. Sometimes, it came from the quiet presence of someone who understood. The night had changed. A simple act of kindness had broken through the fear and tension. And for Maria, it was the start of something new, a reminder that even in the hardest moments, she was never truly alone. The next morning, Maria woke up feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The memory of the quiet bar, the rain, and the calm stranger with the tattoo stayed with her. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of hope. She went to work, but her mind kept drifting back to the man named John. She wondered about his life, his stories, and the tattoo she had seen on his arm. That symbol was more than ink, it told a story of courage, sacrifice, and something deeply human. Maria's day was busy, as usual. Meetings piled up, emails arrived faster than she could answer, and pressure from investors weighed heavily on her shoulders. Yet, she held on to the calm she had found the night before. Late in the afternoon, Maria decided to step outside for a break. The office building was tall and cold, but outside, the air felt fresher, carrying the scent of the city after the rain. As she walked down the street, her thoughts returned to the two men who had cornered her the night before. She still didn't understand why they had come or what they wanted. The threat had felt real, but John's quiet presence had changed everything. She reached a small park near the office and sat on a bench. Her phone buzzed with messages, but she ignored them for a moment. The world was noisy, but she wanted to listen to her own thoughts. Suddenly, a shadow fell over her. Maria looked up and saw a man approaching. It was one of the two black belts from the bar. His face was serious, but there was no anger or threat in his eyes. Maria's heart skipped a beat. She stood up slowly, ready to face whatever was coming. The man stopped a few steps away, his hands in his pockets. I'm sorry for the way we acted last night, he said quietly. We didn't mean to scare you. Maria studied him carefully. Then why did you come to the bar? He sighed. We were sent to warn you. There are people in the city who don't want your company to succeed. They think you're a threat. Maria frowned. Threat? To who? The man shook his head. It's complicated. But I promise, not all of us want trouble. Some of us just want to make sure you stay safe. Maria's mind raced. She realized this was bigger than she had thought. The business world was not just about deals and products, it was also about power, fear, and sometimes danger. "Thank you for telling me," she said softly. "I appreciate the warning." The man nodded. "There's something else. We noticed the man who helped you last night. The veteran." Maria's eyes widened. "You know him?" The man smiled slightly. "Yes. John served with my brother. The tattoo you saw is a sign of respect in our world. When he walked in, we knew things would change." Maria looked down at her hands, thinking. John's calm strength had stopped a dangerous moment without a single word of threat or violence. That kind of power was rare. "John is someone you can trust," the man said. "And so am I. If you ever need help, you can find me." Before Maria could respond, the man turned and walked away, leaving her with more questions than answers. As she watched him disappear into the city crowd, Maria felt a mix of fear and hope. She knew she was no longer alone in her fight. There were people, even among those who seemed dangerous, who wanted to protect her. That evening, Maria found herself back at the bar. She wasn't sure why she came, but something inside told her it was the right place to be. The door opened, and John stepped in. His face showed the wear of life, but his eyes held the same calm strength Maria had seen before. She stood and walked toward him. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For last night. And for being there." John smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me. Sometimes, we all need a little help." Maria nodded. "I want to understand more. About you, about your tattoo, about the things I'm facing." John looked at her, surprised but pleased. "It's a long story," he said. "But if you want, I can share it." They sat together, the noise of the bar fading into the background. Maria listened as John told her about his time in the military, the friends he had lost, the lessons he had learned, and the quiet strength that came from knowing you are a part of something bigger. As he spoke, Maria realized that strength wasn't just about fighting, it was about standing firm, even when things seemed impossible. She looked at John and felt a new kind of courage grow inside her. When their conversation ended, Maria knew one thing for sure: the journey ahead would not be easy, but with allies like John, she could face anything. The tattoo on John's arm was more than a symbol. It was a promise, a reminder that no one fights alone. And Maria was ready to fight. The next morning, Maria arrived at her office early. The city was just waking up, with sunlight streaming through the tall windows of the building. Despite the busy day ahead, Maria felt different. The events of the past 2 days lingered in her mind: John's calm presence, the black belt's warning, and the feeling that things were bigger than she had imagined. She sat at her desk, sipping her coffee, when her assistant knocked and entered quietly. "Maria, there's someone here to see you. He says it's important." Maria looked up. "Who is it?" Her assistant smiled. "He didn't say, but he looks serious." Curious, Maria stood and walked toward the reception. A man in a plain jacket waited there, his expression steady but respectful. It was the same man who had warned her on the street the day before, the one who had spoken about the threats to her company. "Thank you for coming," Maria said, leading him to her office. "Please, have a seat." The man nodded and sat down. "I wanted to talk more about what I told you yesterday. There are things you need to understand, if you want to protect yourself and your company." Maria listened carefully. The man explained how sometimes business was not just about products or services, it was about power and control. Some people wanted to keep others out, especially those who didn't fit their idea of who should lead. "Why are you telling me this?" Maria asked. "Because I believe you're different," he said. "And because I respect what John did for you. You're not alone in this." Maria felt a mix of emotions. Fear was still there, but now it was joined by determination. She realized that strength came not only from fighting but from knowing who to trust. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course." "What about John? Where is he now?" The man smiled. "John is someone you'll want on your side. He doesn't say much, but when he acts, people listen." Maria nodded, feeling more confident. "I want to meet him again. I want to learn how to stand stronger." The man stood. "I can arrange that. But remember, words come before action. It's how you speak, how you carry yourself that's what shows real strength." Maria thought about those words. In her world, she had learned to speak carefully, to negotiate, and to lead with a clear voice. But sometimes, the pressure made her doubt herself. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "I'm ready to listen and learn." The man nodded and left, leaving Maria with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in a long time. Later that day, Maria found herself at the same bar where everything had started. The small place felt different now, not just a quiet spot to relax but a place where her journey was beginning. John was there, sitting quietly in the corner. When he saw her, he nodded in greeting. Maria sat down beside him. "I want to learn," she said simply. "Teach me." John looked at her with surprise and respect. "Are you sure? It's not easy." "I'm sure," Maria replied firmly. "I want to face what's coming with strength, not just in business, but in life." John smiled faintly and began to speak. "Strength is not just about fighting or winning. It's about knowing who you are. It's about standing tall, even when others try to push you down." He talked about his time in the military, the discipline, the respect for others, and the importance of calm in chaos. Maria listened closely, absorbing every word. John showed her simple ways to carry herself with confidence, how to stand, how to speak, and how to remain calm even when things felt difficult. As they talked, Maria felt a change inside her. The fear that had once held her back began to fade. She understood that strength came from within, and that sometimes, the quiet moments were the most powerful. Suddenly, the door to the bar opened, and the two black belts walked in. Their eyes scanned the room, and when they saw John and Maria together, their expressions shifted. John stood slowly, his calm presence filling the room once again. One of the men stepped forward. "We didn't expect to see you here." John's voice was steady. "I'm here to protect her." Maria felt a surge of courage. She stood beside John, her heart beating strong. The black belts looked at her differently now, not as a target but as someone to respect. The tension was there, but this time, it was different. Words had come before action, and the meaning was clear. Respect and understanding were more powerful than fear. The black belts nodded slowly and left without another word. Maria looked at John, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. John smiled. "Remember, strength is not just in your fists. It's in your heart and your mind." Maria nodded, feeling ready for whatever came next. As the night settled around them, Maria knew this was just the beginning. But now, she had the courage and the quiet strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The night after the tense meeting at the bar, Maria returned home feeling a strange mix of emotions: nervousness, hope, and determination all swirling inside her. The events of the past days had changed her world, but she knew the real test was still ahead. John's words kept echoing in her mind: strength is not just in your fists. It's in your heart and your mind. She was beginning to understand that strength meant more than physical power. It was about standing firm, knowing yourself, and facing fear without giving in. Her phone buzzed with messages from her team, reminding her of the important presentation the next morning. This was a moment Maria had prepared for months. Her company's future depended on it. Despite the pressure, Maria found a calm she hadn't known before. She practiced the calm breathing techniques John had taught her, the slow, steady breath that could steady a racing heart. The next day, the office was busy, filled with the hum of conversations and the click of keyboards. Maria dressed carefully, choosing a simple but strong outfit that made her feel confident. She walked into the meeting room with her head held high. Her team greeted her with nods and quiet smiles. They trusted her, and she trusted herself. As she began her presentation, Maria's voice was clear and steady. She spoke about the company's goals, the challenges they faced, and the vision for the future. She saw the faces of investors and partners nodding, impressed by her clarity and confidence. But halfway through, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down and saw a message from an unknown number: "Be careful. Not everyone wants you to succeed." Her heart skipped a beat. The warning was clear. Maria took a deep breath, remembering John's lessons. She stayed calm, finished the presentation with strength, and ended with a smile. After the meeting, Maria stepped outside to the quiet rooftop garden. She needed a moment to think. John was waiting there. He had come to support her. "I saw your message," he said quietly. Maria nodded. "It's getting more serious. They want to stop me." John's face was serious. "Then we must be ready. But remember, fear is only dangerous if you let it control you." Maria looked at him, grateful. "How do I stay strong when everything feels so uncertain?" John smiled gently. "You keep your mind clear, your heart steady, and you remember who you are. Strength is inside you. Always." They stood together in the cool air, the city lights sparkling below them. For the first time, Maria felt truly ready to face whatever was coming. But that night, as Maria slept, a noise woke her. It was soft, but enough to make her open her eyes. Someone was outside her window. She didn't panic. Instead, she reached for her phone and called John. "I think someone's here," she whispered. John's voice was calm on the other end. "Stay where you are. I'm coming." Within minutes, John arrived. He moved quietly, his presence filling the room with calm. Together, they looked out the window. A shadow moved quickly across the street, disappearing into the night. Maria felt her heart racing but also steady. "It's a warning," John said. "They want you to be afraid." Maria shook her head. "I won't be." John placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Good. That's the first step." The night passed without more disturbances, but the message was clear. Maria's fight was no longer just about business, it was about courage and survival. The next day, John brought Maria a small notebook. "Write down your thoughts, your fears, and your plans," he said. "It helps to keep your mind strong." Maria took the notebook with a thankful smile. She began to write, her words flowing freely. Each line was a step toward courage. Days passed, and with John's help, Maria learned to face the moments before fear struck. She practiced standing tall, speaking clearly, and trusting her instincts. The black belts and the threats still lingered in the background, but Maria no longer felt alone or weak. One evening, John and Maria met again at the bar. The quiet place had become a refuge, a place where she could learn to be strong, not just for her company but for herself. John looked at her with pride. "You've come a long way." Maria smiled, feeling stronger than ever. "I'm ready for what comes next." John nodded. "Good. Because this is just the beginning." As they left the bar, the night air was cool and fresh. Maria felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but also the lightness of new hope. The moment before fear was powerful, but even more powerful was the moment after, when courage took over. Maria was no longer just a CEO fighting alone. She was a woman standing tall, with allies by her side and strength in her heart. And she was ready. The weeks that followed were full of challenges for Maria. She continued to lead her company with a new strength, but the shadows around her grew longer. Threats were no longer hidden behind whispers, they were clear and close. The black belts who once stood as a warning now seemed to be watching her every move. But Maria was not afraid. She had learned to listen to the quiet voice inside her, the one that John helped her find, a voice full of calm courage. One afternoon, as Maria was leaving her office, she noticed a man waiting by the entrance. His face was kind but serious. It was someone she had not seen before. "Maria?" the man asked gently. "Yes," she replied, cautious but polite. "My name is Sam," he said. "I'm here to help." Maria's eyes narrowed slightly. "How do I know I can trust you?" Sam smiled softly. "Because I'm a friend of John's. And because I want to make sure you stay safe." Maria hesitated, but then remembered how trust had grown slowly, starting with John. Maybe Sam was another piece of the puzzle. "All right," she said. "Tell me more." Sam explained that he worked quietly in the background, watching for dangers and helping those in need. He knew the business world could be harsh and that some people used fear to control others. "John sent me," Sam said. "He believes you can succeed, but you need protection more than just yourself." Maria thought about the notebook John had given her, the words she had written, the plans she had made. She realized that trust was part of strength. "Okay," she said. "I'm willing to trust you. What do you suggest?" Sam nodded. "First, we need to know who's really behind these threats. It's not always easy to see the face behind the mask." Maria agreed. "I want to know. For my company, for my team, and for myself." Over the next few days, Sam worked quietly. He gathered information, talked to people, and watched for signs of danger. Maria stayed focused on her work, but she felt safer knowing someone was watching over her. One evening, John and Sam met with Maria at the bar. The quiet place had become their meeting spot, a place to share news and plan. Sam spoke carefully. "We've found something. The people trying to stop you are connected to a rival company. They want to take over your business." Maria's heart beat faster. This was more serious than she thought. John nodded. "That means we have to be ready. Not just to defend your company, but to show them you won't be stopped." Maria looked at both men, feeling a new strength rise inside her. She realized that this was more than a business battle, it was a test of her courage and trust. "We need a plan," she said firmly. "One that shows we are strong, fair, and ready to face any challenge." John smiled. "You're already stronger than you think." The next weeks were busy and intense. Maria worked closely with John and Sam, learning how to lead not just with power but with wisdom. She met with her team, sharing her new vision and inspiring them with her courage. The rival company tried to intimidate her with rumors and obstacles, but Maria stayed calm. She used her voice, her knowledge, and her new strength to face every challenge. One day, as Maria was leaving the office, she noticed the two black belts watching from across the street. Their eyes met hers, but this time, there was no fear in her heart. She stood tall, her calm presence sending a clear message: she was ready. John and Sam were with her, a silent support she could feel even from a distance. Maria realized that trust and courage were the strongest armor she could wear. She was not alone. She had allies, and she had herself. That night, as Maria sat in her quiet apartment, she opened the notebook John had given her. She read her words, the fears she had faced and the strength she had found. She smiled softly, feeling grateful for the journey that had brought her here. The tattoo on John's arm was more than a mark of his past, it was a symbol of their shared strength and trust. Maria knew the road ahead might still be difficult, but she was no longer afraid. She was ready to fight, not with anger, but with courage and hope. And with friends like John and Sam by her side, she knew she could face anything. The days passed quickly, but for Maria, each one was filled with a new kind of hope. The threats from the rival company continued, but they no longer had the power to shake her. She faced them with quiet strength and calm determination. John and Sam remained by her side, not just as protectors but as friends who believed in her. Their presence was a reminder that courage was not about being alone, it was about standing together. One bright morning, Maria prepared for the biggest meeting yet. This time, it was not just about business plans or profits. It was about facing the rival company head-on and showing them that she was here to stay. Her team gathered in the conference room, their faces filled with respect and trust. Maria spoke to them clearly, her voice steady. "We've faced hard times," she said, "but we have also found strength. Together, we will move forward, stronger than before." The room filled with nods and quiet smiles. After the meeting, Maria stepped outside. The city buzzed with life, but she felt calm. She looked at the tattoo on her wrist, a small symbol John had given her, a sign of courage and unity. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was John. "Meet me at the park," he said. "There's something I want to show you." Curious, Maria went to the park. John was waiting near an old oak tree, the place where they had first talked about strength and courage. "I want you to see this," John said, lifting his sleeve to show his tattoo again. But this time, there was something new, fresh ink beside the old mark. Maria's eyes widened. "You got another one?" John nodded. "It's a promise. A promise that no matter what comes, we face it together. That courage is not just mine, it's ours." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. "I want one too." John reached into his bag and pulled out a small, simple design, a symbol of hope and strength. "Whenever you feel afraid, look at this," he said. "Remember the journey you've been on and the strength you hold inside." Maria took the symbol and traced it with her finger. She felt a connection deeper than words. "That night in the bar," she said softly, "when you stopped those men without even raising your voice, that's the kind of strength I want." John smiled. "You have it already. You just needed to see it." At that moment, Maria understood the truth: strength was not in fighting or winning alone. It was in standing tall when no one was watching. It was in trusting others and trusting yourself. As the sun set, casting golden light over the city, Maria felt a peace she had never known. The rival company had sent more challenges, but Maria met them with confidence. She negotiated fairly, stood her ground firmly, and never lost her calm. In time, the threats faded. The rival company realized she was not someone to be pushed aside. Maria's business grew stronger, but even more important was the strength she had found within herself. One evening, as Maria and John sat in the bar once more, she looked around the quiet room. "Thank you," she said simply. John nodded. "Thank you for trusting me. Remember, courage is a journey, not a destination." Maria smiled. She knew this was only the beginning of many new journeys. But now, she was ready. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all: the real strength is inside each one of us, waiting to be found. And with that strength, we can face anything.